couldn't find it.
Okay, and we're live on Facebook. We're going to start in a few seconds over here. Thanks for joining, everybody. Few moments over here. We're going to start 1 o'clock. Our weekly Friday updates. Super excited to have Karen Abram with dasCMA and our brokers, Rich Pisani, Richard Askin. So a few moments over here. We're going to start. Okay, let's get this party going. Hey guys, good afternoon. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. You can feel free to unmute yourself. We're going to start. We have a great session today. So we're going to open up with Karen Abram. Karen, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. It's Friday.
Yeah, it is.
Finally.
Yes, it feels, every day is almost the same day. So Karen, tell us a bit about yourself. You did a brilliant move a few years back. Superstar realtor, full-time mom, full-time professional in the marketing industry, and you came up with this idea that then became a full-on app platform. And today it's one of the biggest nationwide, biggest CMA tools out there.
Yeah, so just to kind of elaborate on what you said, my background is in putting together pricing models to help inform how much advertisers should spend on their advertising efforts. That if they spent X amount on advertising, they would then get this amount in return. And I've helped automotive, entertainment, electronic companies do the same. And then after having my first child, who is now almost 8, started to think of, if I wasn't in advertising, what else do I enjoy? And real estate is always something that really piqued my interest because it's, again, the idea of taking a look at multiple variables and seeing how they work together to ultimately get to that right price. So the long story short was I started the process of becoming an agent, and then I found myself in a position where I needed to help my buyer understand that his price was not realistic, that it was far too low, and I was having a difficult time with the current tools helping him understand that his price was far too aggressive. So I started to take the feedback I had from him. I started to put something together that was visual, that would let him see that would help both buyers and sellers understand their perspectives and the market. And in that, dasCMA was born. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how it came to be.
Yeah, and once again, it's super exciting, and it really is the most brilliant tool out there. And the reason that we're having this discussion, which kind of like a really good opening, maybe to some extent before the next half of this session today with our brokers about clear policy and etc., is there's a lot of questions coming both from the professionals, our fellow realtors out there, and the consumer. Primarily, of course, sellers about is this market going to go right, left, up, down? And this session is not about statistics of the economy or whatever. We actually had a few days ago Ask Away, the CER economist, talking about amazing stats and good information. But it's more about, geared to Karen, about share those strategies, right? Mm-hmm. How can we utilize tools like Dash to be as close as possible to pricing right?
I think it's a few things. One, even before we were in this the COVID situation, buying a home or selling a home is extremely overwhelming. It's very uncomfortable for that buyer, for that seller, and they're getting a ton of different opinions back at them from their family, their friends, other agents, etc., who are telling them different price points. And it's overwhelming. And I think as an agent, to be able to bring comfort to the process, to help to involve your client in that process, to acknowledge that this is their decision ultimately, to whether or not to sell their home and what to sell it for and what offer to accept, it is ultimately their decision. And the more that that's reflected to the client in a tool and in a way or a presentation that identifies that you're the decision maker, I'm just here to give you that information in a way that helps you make that decision and to help you better understand the implications for your decision. That if you price it at this level, we're going to sit longer on the market. And if we sit longer on the market, here's what will happen. Or if we price too low, here's what will happen. And to kind of help give all those variables in this one view to help them see it, but also to build it with them. I do think that it's a very powerful statement, especially now, to be able to say to your client, you don't know if this is the right time. You don't know if this is the right time to sell. You don't know if this is the right price point. You're unsure of
Right.
quite a few things. Why don't we build it together? Why don't we go through this process together? Let's have a conversation. Let me help understand what it is you're looking for, where those hurdles are, and let's go through pricing this together to look at the full perspective together. And I think by offering that, no one else is, but then it's also, so you stand out in that aspect, but you also stand out in the eyes of your client because you brought comfort to them and acknowledged that they're the decision maker. You, though, are the resource. You are the one that has all that information to give them to help them make that decision.
Right.
And that's
Yeah.
what
And
we designed dasCMA to be able to be, that landscape and that backdrop to support the agent in supporting their client.
And another thing that I like about your tool, Karen, is that it speaks that psychology behind it. It's not just a tool that is there to complement what the agent need, us as professionals, but as FYI, just use that one. It really speaks that language, which you're very passionate about. And if you don't mind, if you don't mind to maybe show us, take us through that, potential discussion while you are showing a sample of a dash, right?
Sure.
So we can experience that visual, and this is not a sales pitch for Dash or anything. No. It's pretty much just to reflect the psychology behind the conversation. And also, you can use visuals from different resources, right? But I mean, once again, what Karen did brilliantly is to bring, both simplicity and sophistication to the conversation that you might have with your client. So go for it, Karen. Thank you.
Sure. And can you see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I was going to say, if we can't, I don't know how to do it then. So if I was walking a client through this, what I would want them to understand is, first and foremost, why do I even look for comparables? In terms of pricing their home, what I would want to explain to them is, first, we're going to want to look for case studies. We're going to want to look for other properties that are similar to yours, that have recently sold, that are on the market, that are in escrow. And we're going to want to start there to learn from that. So to start from there, I know your home is a single family home, so we'll obviously look at other properties that are also single family. Your home is a 3-bed home, we're going to look at properties that are also 3-bed. Your home is 1,845 square feet. Let's look at properties within a tight range of that. Recency is very important. So let's start by limiting to closed properties to the last 6 months. And distance is also very important. Let's start with a mile radius in looking at properties. So this way I'm starting to walk them through that process of, first, how do I even get comps and how do I get those properties? From there, we access the MLS. We remind you this is pricing for your property, not for any 3-bed in this 1 mile radius. This is for your property. It's valid today. Market changes every day. The situation we're in definitely highlights that. I'm going to continue to hold their hand and walk them through, explaining to them that we're going to first start by reviewing search results. After that, we're going to look at multiple layers of perspective in one view, and then we're going to look at market indicators for your home specifically. So then I'll come down, I'll continue to take them through this. We'll browse properties, we'll decide which ones we love by putting spotlights on those so that all the ones maybe with an updated kitchen stand out in my report. Then I come down here, I see all those properties that I spotlighted, but now is where I start making some more perspectives, some more decisions. I start adding more perspective. So I can say, you know, I bet you checked Zillow or maybe ePraisal.com before I came here. Other buyers will as well. So I want to make sure that I'm aware of what those estimates are, not because I'm going to price what the way they say, but because I want to be aware of how the public estimates are pricing this property. You can add in others as well. So for example, in this case, what if they said, you know, Redfin's quoting my home at this amount, or Realtor.com, or Trulia, or Aunt Linda says I would be a fool to price for under $900,000, and I adore my Aunt Linda and respect her opinion. Well, we certainly don't want to badmouth Aunt Linda, so we're going to add Aunt Linda here. We're going to say, let's keep that in mind. I know that's important to you, so let's make sure we're tracking that too. And you can add that to the scale so that way it says, okay, let's look at Aunt Linda. Let's also look at the trends for active, pending, closed homes. And I would pop this open and say, let's look at the most recently closed property, the price for that, the highest, the lowest, the closest in proximity, the median price points. As you make selections, they start populating. We get this full picture. Features, I'm able to tell my client how pricing for properties with a pool compares to pricing for properties without a pool in a very objective way. There we go. So I can let them know, you know, your property does not have a pool, and other properties in this area that are also 3-beds, similar size, within this mile radius, the ones with a pool are going for $834,000. The ones without a pool are going for $705,000. So I can objectively let them know that the market is objectively suggesting that for a home of this size, this bed count in this neighborhood, the presence of a pool on average is adding about $130,000. I can do the same for flags, and I do think flags should be on every report. So flags basically warn you of properties that are either too large or too small to be considered true comps. So you don't accidentally price your property the same as what properties that are 50% larger are going for. Or so you don't price your 3-bed as what a 4-bedroom is going for. So when you click larger, we'll let you know, is there anything on the market that might be too large to be a comp and too large by square footage? In this case, yes, there are properties 25 to 50% larger. So I can help my client understand that, you know, if we price at around $800,000, not only do we compete with these two actives that we spotlighted here because we felt that they were our biggest competition, but we're also going to compete with properties that are up to 50% larger than yours, same bed count in this neighborhood. And I can give them that perspective. I can give them the same perspective on bed counts. So if they said, you know, if a buyer said, I'm interested in buying this home as a 3-bed, 1,800 square foot property and converting the den to a 4th bedroom, how much more would I make for this property as a 4-bed, 1,800 square foot home? Well, your best indication is other 4-bed homes that are currently on the market. So you click that +1, and I can easily let them know there are other properties in this area, similar size, but 1 more bed, and those are going for $695. So the idea is you're able to show multiple different perspectives in one view, to play around with all the selections in here, in all the different tabs, to get one full picture so that you're looking at this from multiple different perspectives, and at that point, have a very respectful conversation about why $900,000 might be too high. So you can see those outliers, you can see it in price per square foot as well, And in doing this, the more information you have, it's providing that comfort. It's making it easier to make that decision. But ultimately, to help you narrow in on where's the best place to price on that scale is the market analysis. And I'd say right now for today's market, the one trend to really pay close attention to on your market analysis reports is that active shelf life. So for example, on this property, when I see that we're in May and there are 13 on-market properties that are similar in size, same bed count, same neighborhood, everything matches, and they're trending on the market for 72 days. I'm going to let my seller know that's a significant amount of time to be sitting on the market, especially since back in January, a home similar to yours was sitting on the market for 24 days. But also, one thing that you need to be cautious of, especially now, is the longer you're on the market, the more susceptible you are to other market factors, to other buyer concerns, and so forth, to other properties that pop up as competition to yours that maybe are going to be listing them for less to get their cash out. So in that case, that's one variable that I would highlight to all my clients, specifically to any client, and would suggest agents do the same, is to really focus on what is that active shelf life right now? How are those similar homes? How long are they sitting on the market? And the nice thing with dasCMA is that we modeled this knowing that you're talking to your client about their home, that they're not trying to sell all of Los Angeles. So all the trends are related to their specific home based on that criteria you entered, that you can see if you entered the same criteria back in February, there would have been 4 on-market properties with an average days on market of 37. And because we're looking at it for each specific property, this will look very different for each home on this street based on its square footage, based on its bed count, and the other parameters and variables for it. So that's definitely one of the, I'd focus on active shelf life quite a bit right now in terms of where's top dollar value and how aggressive should I go in pricing and how conservative should I go in pricing. But I'd also make sure that you're paying attention to the competition side and pricing favorability. On the competition side, we'll highlight where those properties are, but we'll also indicate how fresh or stale they are so that you can help explain to your client just with this color guide of we're pricing a property when there's quite a few properties that just hit the market and have only been on for less than a month that are similar to yours. So I'm going to factor that into how aggressive or conservative I price on that scale. In pricing, as Meny said, it is psychological. And part of that psychology is, one, knowing the seller's perspective of their needs, of do they need to sell quickly, what's their situation. But it's also on the buyer side of what are their options. Do they have more, is supply higher for this specific type of home right now? And what are their needs? But then also the market trends and understanding right now how much value are features bringing and where are those flags. So just because you might have features that might add $300,000 to a property, if there's a buyer not willing to pay it, then it didn't add value. So understanding kind of how much people are willing to pay for those different features right now, where those different breaks are on flags for properties too large or too small to be considered comps is, I think, essential to the conversation right now, especially given the situation. And I'll come up for air for a second.
You're doing a good job, Karen. Are you going to jump to the next session, or you want to focus on that for a second?
Sure, I can jump to another one on here. So pricing favorability,
and
I do think it's important to talk. I'm sorry?
Just to mention one thing, if you can go back to the diagram for a second, just to show it.
Yes.
One beautiful thing about this diagram, we get a lot of those, but Zillow said, or I saw on Zillow, or whatever.
Yes.
Well, Karen, she went through that as a producing agent, and it's all there. You got the Zillow estimate, and you got the from different highly reliable resources. So it's all there to give you an idea, a really good visual a concept of what, where you're at, and where other things you should be.
So on the subject of Zillow, yes, I got asked quite a bit. Well, Zillow said it's priced here, Zillow said it's priced there, and so forth. Zillow is currently in the top 100 of most traffic sites in the US. So chances are very high that your clients will be checking this estimate. So instead of talking through their algorithm and what the accuracy of their algorithm, instead, again, putting myself in the shoes of my client, they're uncomfortable, they're nervous, they're anxious. This is a huge decision for them, and they don't have resources. They don't have the MLS. They are getting so many different opinions from their family, their friends, all the agents they talk to on what that value is. So they're trying to do their own homework, and they're checking Zillow. So the way I look at it and the way I position it to them is, when they say to me, I checked Zillow and Zillow said we can price at $688. My response to that is, good for you for checking Zillow. I mean, you're trying to better understand the top dollar value for your home. Good for you for checking it out. I checked it out too, but I also looked at 20 other perspectives. So when you work with an agent like myself, you will be able to see more than just that one perspective, because in this case, if we price for what Zillow said, I do think you're leaving money on the table. So this way you're able to show that perspective in a respectful way to say you should check it, because others will check it, and we should have a response for why did we price more? Why did we price less? And so forth. And this is that reflection. Same for Zillow, same for ePraisal.com, or when they say I checked Redfin. I had an agent once say that her client was so focused on the Redfin estimate that she went in here and she added 12 public estimates just to make the case of it's one public estimate. Here's 11 other perspectives. Here's what Zillow says. Here's what Realtor.com says, what Redfin says, what Trulia says, Movoto, Aunt Linda, whoever. The fact is, there's going to be different perspectives, and the best thing you can do is lay them all out so that they're here.
Yeah, beautiful. So take us to the third layer of how, the last part. Yeah.
When you after you've kind of gone through each of these gauges here to get a sense of the market for this specific home, and you've clicked through them, for example, on price per square foot, and you start to get a sense of where everything is, you come back to your scale, and you come here and you decide, okay, where am I going to price? You add your price. When you add your price, for example, in this case, if I'm thinking 700,000, I'm able to show my price with everything else around it so that I can communicate to the client and say, we looked at over 30 different properties. Of those 30 properties, I really carefully looked for those few that had a very similar kitchen to yours, knowing that you've recently upgraded your kitchen. Or maybe I chose all the ones that backed up to a busy street because I know yours does, and I want to keep tabs on those specifically. Whatever that narrative is that makes this specific for the client I'm creating it for, that's my narrative here. So in this case, I'll say to them, these are all the properties that had a very updated kitchen similar to your property. I compared that price to those properties, but I could also compared my price to public estimates, knowing that you check Zillow, others will too, and they might check a few other public estimates. I compared it to trends. I want to be aware of how my price compares to the most recent, the closest in proximity, the average, the highest, the lowest, the median, price points for active, pending, closed homes. I also am aware that you don't have a pool, and a pool is adding significant value to homes similar to yours in the area that do have a pool. I also compared my price to properties in the area that are too large or too small to be comps, because I'm aware that there are properties in the area that have more bedrooms, have less bedrooms, slightly smaller, slightly larger, and I want to make sure that we're positioned to defend this price point and support it. I looked at my price point in both price and price per square foot so that I'm more ready to cover both bases. And then again, I'd bring my client into that conversation and I'd say to them, by the way, which are you more comfortable with? Are you more comfortable in price per square foot or price? Because as that expert, I'm prepared to talk in either. So it's a way to further just showcase your intel, the data that you have, how easy and approachable you are to work with because you've made it digestible for them in that one view, and you gave them that option to choose their pricing language of choice, if you will. So that also is helpful for when your client says to you, 700,000 sounds great, but you know, I met with another agent and I mentioned that my Aunt Linda said we can get 900,000 and they said that I should be able to do that for you. Not a problem. What do you think about 900,000? You can say, you know, I don't know what that other agent looked at, but my process is completely transparent. At 900,000 over here, we're going to be right aligned with the highest closed comparable. So I'm a little worried that we may not have enough support to get the price. Also, I'm nervous that at 900,000, we're going to be priced about 200,000 over properties with a pool, without a pool, and yours doesn't have a pool. Not to mention, we'll be priced 70,000 over those properties with a pool. We'll also be 100,000 over properties that are up to 50% larger than yours. And I can have that conversation with them, and then I can toss it back to my client and say, you know, I don't know what that other agent looked at. In fact, you are going to be approached by so many different opinions on what top dollar value for your home is, but the only real opinion that matters is yours. This is your decision. Has anyone offered to build this with you from start to finish so that we can get to that same perspective together, rather than just showing you the final presentation? And chances are they haven't. So you're bringing value to the table by doing that with them.
That's powerful statement right there, Karen. Can you take us through the final stages of maybe how you present the report, and also how do you share the report in today's age? I mean, naturally, we don't really interface, come across face to face, at least not anytime soon. What's the best way to share that report with the clientele?
Sure. So you can either do exactly kind of what I did, open Zoom, walk through each step-by-step of the tool and build it with them. You can show it to them as a PDF if they're more comfortable with that PDF, and I'll show you an example of that. Or you can share it as an interactive link with them. If you share it as an interactive link, then every time they play with it, you see a breakdown of everything they did. Here's an example here. Let me go back to it, start from the beginning. When I go under past reports, I can click on any interactive link icon that I've sent. So in this case, if I click this one, I see that they did open that report once. I click view sessions. They spent a minute. I click view session details, and I'm able to see everywhere my client explored. So we're still on the same page as they're exploring it without me being there. That way, I have a script, if you will. When I see what they've looked at, I can then reach out to them and I can say, hey, I wanted to check in. See if you had a moment to look at the report I sent you. By the way, did the highest active comp catch your attention? I was hoping it would. And if they say, yeah, you know, I did notice it. Great, we're on the same page. What did you think? What questions did you have? How can I help you better understand that that might be priced on the higher side of where we should be? And I can have that conversation knowing where they focus their attention and where they're interested in. So in terms of presenting it, you can start that new report, walk them through step by step the way I just did, or you can open up a PDF to walk them through a page report, or you send it to them after. Say, here's a link where you play around with it, in which case, whoops, open one here. Here's that example. Here's an example of an interactive link that will show each of those properties so that they can see which properties are spotlighted, which properties have a thumbs up so that your clients know which ones you thought were an okay fit versus a perfect fit for the conversation. Your client can see where they are as well. Your client can click into each of these. They can click into the home on Nordhoff right here. They can see those photos right from here themselves. And if they do, you know they looked at it, so that you are always connected with where their focus is in real time. They can click in and see everything right here. So to answer your question, you can either open the tool and go through it with them right now, live. You can share it as a PDF live, or if they don't want to jump on that call, you can send them an interactive link and you're still connected to how they're viewing it because you get that recap.
Yeah, powerful tool, Karen. That's pretty incredible. I know that we only had pretty much half an hour for just kind of like go over this piece. And by the way, if you're watching and you want to know more of a kind of like a workshop this coming Tuesday, the 19th, right, at 3 p.m., Karen?
Yes.
I believe we have. Yeah, we have more in-depth sessions, step by step. So please, stay tuned to our calendar and the links. Karen, I can't thank you enough. And once again, that was just a teaser about the tool. But as you can see, the visual part of it is so powerful, and it all actually helps you, right, Karen, just to be a better professional. Yes. How you explain the process overall.
Right. My feeling is that technology shouldn't replace the agent. Technology should enhance the agent. It should show off what that agent knows. It should be that backdrop and basically be their right hand to help support what it is they're saying, so that when you are saying that you are the expert, the technology should be supporting that, should be illustrating that for you without you having to say, but I have testimonials from people you don't know, right? But you can be your own testimonial by producing a report in a way that shows that you are that expert.
Right. Well, Karen, can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Oops, I think I showed the wrong one. Karen Abram, founder and CEO of dasCMA. You're awesome as always. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we're gonna jump to our brokers, Richard. We're gonna go over the clear corporation policy. Richard, are you with us?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Great. Hey guys. Yeah.
Thank you, Karen. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very impressive. It's really phenomenal.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen.
I respect your opinions very much, so thank you.
To tell somebody who has practiced their script and it walked us off the way.
Exactly, yeah.
I've gone through it a couple times, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, take us through the, my phrase for clear is let's make it clear, or let's make it as clear as possible.
And it's far from it.
Right.
But the concept of clear cooperation is clear. And what it is that within one business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing must be submitted to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. That's what clear cooperation is. If you're gonna market it and you're gonna send it out there to the public, then it needs to be in the MLS. Now, does that preclude you from having an office exclusive? No, it does not. That option is still available, but it's strictly your office, your broker, your DRE number under that single broker. So that would be an office exclusive that you can exclude it, and you don't have to abide by clear cooperation. But what clear cooperation also does, it does a couple of things. It defines what public marketing is. So if you do any of these things, then you have to put it in the MLS. and that is flyers displayed in windows or anywhere, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, brokerage website displays, including IDX and VOW, digital communication marketing, e-blasts, multi-brokerage listing sharing networks. Those are all considered public marketing. So if you have a new listing and you do any of those things, then it has to go into the MLS. Richard, do you want to back
You
onto
hit it.
that?
Yeah, you hit it right on the nose. It's any kind of anything. You know, I have a lot of agents saying, "Oh, can I just put the sign up?" No. You know, can I tell the broker across the parking lot about it? No. So very clear.
Right. Yeah. So it is kind of clear. But what gets muddied is that every MLS has their own rule. So they govern it differently. So you may presently in our area, you may have a listing that is ChrisNet that has one rule about coming soons or anything. Then across the street, you have another one, CRMLS or DMLS, and their rules are different. So it does become a challenge. And I think MLSs are discovering this, and I think they're trying to come to some sort of an agreement between the MLSs as to how to govern this and how to regulate it, so it's not so confusing.
Wasn't there talk at one point about wherever the property is located, it was going to fall under that MLS rule?
There is. It's still being talked about, but you know, here's the problem with that is that if somebody doesn't agree to that, then you're forcing not to share your data with the MLS who doesn't want to agree to it. So what does that do? That forces agents that they have to join, as in years past. I'm sure there's some agents out there who remember this, but you belong to many different MLSs. Nobody shared their data with anybody else. They were all like Santa Barbara or the Antelope Valley. They don't share their data with anybody else. So if you want to see what they're doing up there, you have to join that MLS. So I don't think that we want to go towards that because you know it's money out of the agent's pocket. So I think if we all come to an agreement, then it's much better. The other thing I wanted to point out in regards to what Clear Cooperation did in regards to excluding a listing from the MLS, which there are a lot of reasons to exclude a listing. I mean, it's celebrity property or you know a client who really doesn't want their property on the MLS, but it gave the MLSs an opportunity to define what a client is. And that's a really important thing because if you exclude it, you can only promote it with the agents in that office and the clients in that office. But it's not just everybody in your CRM. A client for CRMLS, I believe is, correct me if I'm wrong, is defined as anybody that an agent has an agency disclosure, assigned agency disclosure with. Is that correct, Richard?
Yep. In the last 12 months.
In the last 12 months. Well, ChrisNet has gone even farther, is that, or I'm sure if you have a broker, an agent, a broker agent, broker agreement, broker buyer agreement. But in addition to the the agency disclosure, if they've had a signed listing agreement with that broker in the last 12 months, has a signed offer with with a broker in the last 12 months, it's more than a casual relationship. So an involuntary drip system, bulk mailing, stuff like that, that doesn't count as a client. That's something that's we really have to be careful about as to when we're promoting these listings within the offices.
And just to mention one thing, we did send maybe earlier this week or maybe it was last week, pretty much a clear email or email but clear, right?
Right.
And with a link to resources of all the various MLSs in our areas, their policies, and also a pretty detailed map of all the, what areas those MLSs are covering, etc. So the best recommendation is if you not really sure about Clear, a lot of you out there doing a great job by reaching out and asking us questions. It's new to everybody, so yeah, please definitely practice. Rule number one is ask a question before you do anything. So here's a question. Go ahead, Rich.
Mm-hmm. What I was going to say is, that could be a little deceiving also, because agents from the MLS take listings in the Valley. Agents from down Long Beach, my Aunt Clara from Karen's example, she may be an agent and she's selling something up here, but she belongs to a different MLS. So unfortunately the boundaries aren't really that well defined, and that's where the problems are gonna come about. So you just need to be very careful about that, and also I lost my train of thought because this one was going out and I needed to switch over. So Richard, go ahead if you have anything.
Well, I had some questions from agents about the map that was sent out showing desert area MLS being a separate board, but we reached out to CRMLS and they do cooperate with CRMLS and download the same data. They just happen to have different rules, I guess, under that particular board of realtors, even though they data dump in with CRMLS. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same way as Ventura County. Ventura County is a shareholder of CRMLS, but they're using the Flex system, so they're adopting some of the rules and stuff, but they're also creating their own, and I think this is now more than ever. It's an argument for a statewide MLS. As to whether that will happen, I have no idea.
Well, the good news is Rich and I have access to our particular MLS departments, so if you have any questions, we can shoot them off to our contacts there and get some answers rather quickly.
Absolutely, because there was an instance where somebody asked me something and I thought I knew the answer, but I just wanted to double check, and I found out I didn't know the answer. So and it was a house wasn't ready. They didn't know if they could put it on hold and then put it into coming soon and whatnot from there. But you can't. I found out you can't put it on hold. When you put in a listing, you have three choices. It could be excluded, it could go into coming soon, or it can be active. Those are your your only three choices, with the exception of the MLS, because they've added a little thing on their own. But for the most part, for most MLSs, that's the only thing you can do. Now, after the 21 days for coming soon, you can move it over to hold. It can go over to hold, but the days of inputting a listing and immediately putting it on hold are gone.
Now,
unfortunately.
we have just done that in a couple listings this past week, and the system let it happen.
They did let it happen?
Yeah.
I was told it's a violation. You can't do it.
Okay.
And that's another thing. They're a lot of MLSs, and ChrisNet is number one, are taking this opportunity to revamp other rules within the MLS, or being a little more stringent on, or rewording things in regards to showings, because a lot of agents take advantage of statuses in that, you know, they'll move something to active under contract, and yet they won't allow other agents to look at the property in order to take a backup. You said that the seller doesn't want to, they don't want to show it anymore. Well, then take it out of active under contract, because that is an active status, and you are saying to everybody that you will show that property. If you don't want that property to be shown, move it to pending, because that is a violation. And so there's these other rules that are coming to the forefront that kind of have been I don't want to say overlooked, but you know, this gives them an opportunity to really push. So, and just know that the MLS or any of these MLSs, they're not looking for these things. It's your other realtors, it's your realtor buddies out there that are reporting these violations. MLSs do not scour the internet looking for violations. It's other realtors that are out there that know the rules, and when they see a rule being broken, they report it. That's where it's coming from.
CRMLS does have a department, and all they do is scour. They look for violations.
They do, yeah, actually they do, and they're a big MLS too. So
yeah,
they're one of the largest MLSs in the country.
But also just to mention that, you know, 99.9% of the agents out there, at least whoever is watching right now, is you know, do straight business, clean business, so it's not a problem, you know. And if someone is doing something fishy, yeah, you know, is it our obligation to point out? Most likely, because we're not in the fishy business. We're just here to service.
Right.
Richard, ask a question, then I also have a couple of questions.
Okay, Rich, does your MLS do the days on market, days not active, days in pending, and total days listed? Are they breaking that for?
No, they're not.
Okay, CRMLS has set it up to where the days in any status other than active, active under contract, or pending are tracked. That's called days not active. Days on market, the days active or active under contract without the deal closing is the days on market. The days in pending or under contract are called days in pending, DIP. And then they have another category, day list contract date unless list finalization. No days removed for any status or condition. That's called days listed. So it's confusing, and there's going to be a lot more data tracking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can share that page.
The one thing about CRMLS to note, and our coming soon, the difference between our coming soons is that your coming soon, CRMLS is coming soon, there are no showings. And it does not count days on market. ChrisNet, they allow showings, and they don't count days on market. So you basically have 21 days, basically as an active listing, and where you can sell it and never record a day on market.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. So let's say there's exclusion, and so, you know, you cannot publicly market the property, but the seller, the owner of the property, promote that on their social media, etc. How do you go about that?
Well, that property was publicly marketed. Doesn't matter whether it was publicly marketed by the seller or the agent, it still was publicly marketed, and it would fall under clear cooperation. It would have to go in the MLS. So tell your sellers, make sure.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why one thing is use the SCLMs of the local MLSs. Do not use CAR's SCLM right now because it needs to be updated, and it won't be updated until the June rollout. All the SCLMs from the local MLSs have language in it to make sure that the seller knows that you're agreeing that there will be no public marketing, and it lays out right there in the SCLM what public marketing is. So your seller can't say, "Oh, I wasn't aware," because they're signing a piece of paper that says it.
But CRMLS actually got rid of their form.
They got rid of their form. Well, because they're doing it electronically, kind of, aren't they? Because of the register. Well, but that doesn't come in until like June or July.
All they have now is the coming soon form.
Which is odd that people are using coming soon's forms specifically for coming soon. The MLS, I found out yesterday, on their SCLM, it has coming soon on there. So that could be because most of them are not allowing showings and they're coming soon. I don't know the reasoning.
Not going to be very clear for a while.
No, it won't be.
Yep. Well, but that's what we're doing, those engagement, and I do know that the local boards, SRAR, PWR, etc., they're doing a great job coming, up with campaigns to educate the agents. It's mostly an educational campaign. It's not not about the negative part. I mean, if you think about it, there's actually a lot of advantages to the consumer by doing that, and some partially to the realtor. If you had all kind of some specific exclusive networks before that you could not be part of or get access to when it comes to those off-market or pockets, now when you put this coming soon on the MLS, that's a wide network of realtors that get access to those properties, because at the end of the day, our job is to find a buyer for those listings. So if anything, we're actually doing a great service for the public.
And that was the whole purpose of Clear Cooperation, is so that there was this to put more emphasis on the MLS and the participants. And that's why in the NAR meeting last November, 92% of the directors of NAR voted on this policy to put forward this policy. So that's what it's all about, is cooperation. And it is up to the local MLSs to educate. And I know that ChrisNet is coming up with their education. Actually, after I get off of this call, I have my second meeting about education for ChrisNet. And during that period, they have to roll out they have to make sure that everybody knows what it is and understands it, because it is confusing. It really is.
I think that this is a great opportunity for agents to do a buyer broker, because they can go to their buyers and say, I have access to properties that aren't going to be anywhere else, not only within my office, but in the coming soon. So sign a buyer broker, I can share it with you.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's true.
And then,
you probably will see more buyer broker agreements now. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just picking up some questions that you guys didn't address maybe for now. While I'm looking, anything else you guys like to address, mention that maybe from recent questions, common questions? It's still new to everybody, but anything that worth mentioning?
Not so much on the Clear Cooperation, but it's still a lot of questions on the use of the PED and the new form to put on the door. That's one we got to get cleared up on Monday by CAR still. Whatever we send out today will not be the same on Monday, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So with that, I think we covered most of the pieces, and we are gonna keep on, do those mini sessions, or on the more broadcasts. We'll share some information, because things might be evolving and changing between boards and MLSs as we go. It's a new launch, 2 weeks old, and about that. For that corporation, that policy. So stay tuned, and once again, reach out if you have any questions. Richard, anything else you want to add?
No, I would just suggest people log in and look at how many coming soons are in the MLS right now. It's pretty amazing, the high number.
Yeah, it's a great
Yes.
tool.
Mhm.
That's, I mean, ChrisNet didn't even have that status prior to, this policy. So it's great.
Hmm. Hmm.
Use it.
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys, and by the way, happy belated birthday to Carol Fox. I see that she's watching us as well on Facebook. Carol, we love you. Thanks for watching. Guys, thank you so much. Can't thank you enough. Karen Abram with dasCMA, thank you for opening the session today, and Rich and Richard, our brokers. Thank you so much, guys, and wherever you are out there, stay safe and be well. Keep it busy. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.